Hello and welcome to Tonalist Painting with M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And the painting that we're doing today is called Clearing After a Storm. And as promised, this is one of these ones where I'll be working over the burnt umber instead of the burnt sienna. You can see right here I actually did videotape the process where I covered up the old painting with some burnt umber, or an approximation of burnt umber. It was actually raw umber mixed with burnt sienna. And it won't be too long we're done with that and it's dry and we're into doing a new painting over the top. And that it went so well. This is sometimes, in fact, that might be a good thing to talk about in a blog post at some time. Building on success is a really important aspect of painting or any endeavor. I'm going to make a note if you don't mind, because that's what I was doing here. I had a big success with the repainting over the top of this failed painting, and decided that a bunch of these other old paintings I had laying around that I just wasn't happy with, I get tired of looking at them. I covered them up with a bunch of burnt umber, and we'll be rolling a bunch of those out over the next few weeks. So, and I have to say that the working over the umber has been, I had a lot of success, and if I photographed, and a lot of times after photographing things, I can really get in and zoom in on things in a way that I can see things even in more detail than I could while working on the painting in the studio. And quite a lot of this burnt umber comes through. So that's interesting, and it has a real effect on the overall paintings, because there is so much of this color coming through. Less so, of course, in the sky, but what I like about the burnt umber is, as an associate of mine pointed out recently, it's a red. I hadn't really thought of it so much as a red. I tend to think of it as a brown, but really I could see how he was right when I get the photos on the computer and mess around. I can see it's a real reddish tone, a reddish chocolatey tone, but still red. Anyway, Clearing After the Storm went really well. It's one of these paintings where I did not go in with a second color pass, which is rare for me. It's rare that there's not a few things I need to do in a second color pass, but I decided to leave it alone. I had it sitting there for a long time and I wanted to fiddle with it, but really couldn't see any way that I could that it would have been that dramatically improved, and I thought it would be good to leave it as a testament to just its painterliness or whatever. If you get a good one in a one color pass, it's probably a good idea to leave it alone. And there's another one, this I don't know, it was this week or last week, a week before, that I did, that's also like that, really strong right out of the gate. That one's called Other Side of the Mountain and hasn't been photographed yet, so, but I'm sure at some point you guys will be seeing that. And it's cool. It's good. I can see one of the reasons why I might have more success with one color pass is that working over this dark tone, I have to work a little more slowly, a little more completely. Sure, I can leave things peeking through in the grounded area, but in the skies especially, I have to make sure everything's covered. And anyway, getting back into this painting, I nearly sold it off the easel. I mean, I had someone wanting to buy it about 3 days after I painted it, and I took that as a sign from the universe just to leave it alone and not do that second color pass. And so here it is, and I get to share it with you guys. And so really happy with this, and I'm happy with most of the work. I will say, I mentioned, I think in yesterday's video, that I've been using the black instead of my chromatic black. I've been using ivory black, and I had a painting that was kind of odd looking, and again, I guess maybe it's my old eyes, but something was odd about it, and I thought I'd just put it down to using the black. But what it was, I'd had that up on the easel yesterday in a better, stronger light, and I could see what it was is that the black that I'd laid over the burnt umber was just so thin that what I was getting was kind of this complementary reddish tone up against the greens, and it was just kind of weird looking. It was a little half-hearted. Now, I went in and worked on that painting, and unfortunately I lost a lot of the freshness I would have liked to have kept due to this error, and I do think it's an error, and an error that I was attributing the oddness to the fact I was using ivory black, but it was more just that my darks were not thick enough. It weren't black enough, and I think my workaround there is going to be to go back to doing a drawing stage and letting that dry, and then coming in and restating the darks. Now, I mean, I haven't had problems in everything, but this particular tree had a lot of black areas, and I don't want to, I don't like to load paint up too thickly in those dark areas. It really isn't a good look to have peaks of paint in your dark areas. They need to be a little thinner than the areas that are light, and for that reason, I think it'll be a good plan just to do my drawing stage, let it dry, and then come in and restate the darks. And so that's what I'm going to try. And I've got next week 3 big paintings I'm going after, 2 1824s and 1 1622, and we're going to take that approach on it. And it may actually take more than a week to do those. We'll see how it goes. Also, well, I guess we just moved into how things are going in the studio. I guess it's all I've been talking about, but last week I started another series of Tonalist studies, studies after Tonalist masters, and I'm going to do all those on this burnt umber as well, and we'll see how it goes. You know, someone was in the studio asking me if I was, you know, because they'd seen on my videos that I was always painting on the red, the red burnt sienna tone, and you know, why I was painting on this dark brown now, and basically I think it's just a nice change, you know, but I am a big believer in that burnt sienna, and I can't say that I've decided to abandon it just because I've had some success on the burnt umber. I will say that having a ground color for the type of painting that I'm doing, other than white, is really important, and if you want, it's really almost one of the main things that's getting that traditional feeling across. You know, if I wanted to paint something in a more, well, they call it contemporary, but it's really just impressionist. In a more impressionist way, I would start with a white or a very light, lightly tinted canvas, and you know, I could definitely get that across with not a lot of huge difference in the way I'm actually laying down the paint. The way I lay down paint is, it's a lot more brusque than most of the traditional painters. Although you do get guys that like Ines and Eaton that were getting pretty expressive, and of course Francis Murphy, which, by the way, in these another 25 days of Tonalism, we're going to be doing a heap and helping of all those guys again, my favorite guys, and I always love to make studies after their paintings because you know, they're better than me. So and I want to get better, and that's the best way I know of to get better is just to do studies after the masters. And it's not like I'm discovering some big secret that wasn't known. I mean, a lot of artists knew this, but it's been sort of gone by the wayside in the era of everybody's a special snowflake and everyone's a great artist, and you just wait for inspiration to strike you from heaven, and you don't need to study or practice or work. That whole idea, you know, which is still running rampant in the art world, and the art world being one of the few places you can actually get away with that. I mean, you couldn't get away with that if you were a builder or something. You know, you'd need to actually put up buildings that stayed up, otherwise you wouldn't be working very long. But I digress, as usual. Anyway, we're getting close to the end, but I will say, I have a friend who paints on this burn umber, and was talking in their email about the greens, and it really is a special way, because the green, it's so much closer to that middle tone. I'd have to say that the burn umber is about, if I had to reduce it to a gray on the gray scale, 65 or 70% gray, and right in line with the bulk of the grays in the landscape. So for that reason, it's kind of already supporting the whole green thing already. In fact, a lot of times I'm painting green, I can't necessarily tell if I've actually painted green over the top or not, because the values are so close. And again, I can see when doing my photography, and bringing things up and being able to blow them up on screen, that a lot of brown's being left in there, and that's fine. I think it's great. I like to leave bits of things. I don't like to overwork things. I like things to be sort of left alone, so they can breathe. And anyway, here it was, burnt umber painting by M. Francis McCarthy, and it's a good painting. I'm real happy with it. It's in my studio right now. Probably be going in this museum show I've got coming up. I'm doing some prep work for that. That's going to be about 3 months from now, and it's all going pretty good right now, so I'm pretty happy. Anyway, I can see we're getting close to the end now for sure, so thanks for joining me today. Hey, you know what? If you like my videos and stuff, go ahead and click subscribe. We're well over 200 now, and on our way to our next 100 subscribers, hopefully. And also go to my website, landscapepainter.co.nz. You can follow my blog through there real easily, and check out some of my work there, and find out more about what I do if you're interested. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.